Okay, welcome everybody, and I've got Mark Keohane again here. Let's get on to the Super Rugby and the biggest game of the week, Wales versus England. Now, we differ on this, I think. Me being Welsh, I think we're going to get a beating of biblical proportion. At the beginning of the Six Nations, I predicted that England would win the Six Nations. They'd be the biggest tries, they have the most tries, and have the most points scored, and all of that. I think all those things are around 3-1. So I've got a lot of money on fund number 2 riding on that. So I won't be cheering for England, I promise you that, even though the result pays me. I'll be cheering for Wales, but I think I'll be cheering a lost cause. You think differently, why?
I do. I think the Welsh side at the moment, longest ever winning streak. Warren Gatland, a very good coach. They're playing at home. Yeah. I think that's also has to be worth a hell of a lot. England, I feel they have improved since John Mitchell got there. Certain aspects of their game. They're pretty much back to full strength again in terms of playing personnel. A big ask to go to Cardiff and win handsomely. I think it's going to be very close. I spoke to Rassie earlier in the week and asked him England, Wales, and he said England not by much, but he said neither side wants the ball. And that's a pointer to the World Cup. They play 60% without the ball. They rely on great defense and offensive pressure. And he said both are very good coaches, both have very good teams, and both will be up there when it comes to the World Cup tournament later this year. And then I asked him, is that a sign or a measure of where we're going in the World Cup? That it's going to be the team who doesn't want the ball who's going to be most successful. And he said he believes so. It's probably 70% of what will happen, 20% game-breaking moments, and 10% luck. But he says where it's fundamentally switched for him in the last year is it's not about the team who's going to go out and try and score 5 tries. It's about the team who's going to prevent any tries being scored. And that Ireland-New Zealand game, he said in Dublin, was a measure of how defence beat attack again. And that has confused New Zealand a bit in terms of how they want to play. Sean Fitzpatrick said he thinks England and Ireland have New Zealand's measure, and potentially Wales to a degree as well. And they'll always be.
We've never beaten them.
Never beaten them, but he says measure in terms of how to stop playing them at the moment, because of this incredible defense, conditioning, and sustaining it for 80 minutes. So I think it's going to be the game potentially of the year. I said that last year, pre-World Cup. It's 2 very informed sides, and I think in the Southern Hemisphere we need to give our due to the quality of rugby we played in the Northern Hemisphere. This is an outstanding England team and probably one of the best Welsh teams in the professional era. I don't think it's fair to compare them to anything in the amateur era, because that 70s Welsh rugby was just the equal of what we see a lot from New Zealand now, if you go back to that era. But I think it's going to be a great game. It's the one to really tune into this weekend. You won't get it on SABC, but you can see it on SuperSport. And I have Wales to take over the Lee Halfpenny penalty right near the end. So.
Who do you think has the better? Well, if it's going to come down to tactical kicking and letting the other team make a mistake, who's the better kicker? Who's got the better kicking side?
I think the better kicking side is definitely England. Okay, and Farrell really has matured in the last year. I think last year's strains and struggles with the weakened side, the captaincy. But I've always kind of wondered about Owen Farrell. Is he as good as they say he is? But I really have been impressed with him so far this year. And but if Wales win those collisions and they get that crowd behind them, you know, you got a guy like Dan Bigger who then plays the game of his life. And then the one thing they do have is they make a mistake, Lee Halfpenny will punish them. You know, and he's back in the mix. By all accounts, he will be playing. And there is. Warren Gatland is a very, very good coach. And so it's Gatland against Eddie Jones and John Mitchell. I think it's one of those mouth-watering matchups.
Well, the bet I would look for is on world sports betting. They usually have tries. Will there be more penalties converted than tries scored? And you can usually get that around 15-10. That'll be my bet. If I can get better than even odds on that, I think there's going to be way more penalties and shots at goal than there will be tries in that game. So that'll be one of the bets that I look at. I'm not going to bet on that game because I'm already invested from an England point of view, and my heart's invested from a Wales point of view. The bet I like in the Six Nations is Scotland at 2-1 in Paris. Now France can't beat anybody right now. So a 2-1 on Scotland, that's not a bad bet. You know, it shouldn't be 2-1. It should be around even money. So I'm going to put 1,000 Rand down on Scotland to win 3,000 back, including my stake. And now we have the Super Rugby. Wow, we talked about Flecky already, and thank God he's white and not black, or he'd be fired. I think it was.
I don't know if he'd be fired. He just wouldn't have been there this year.
I was amazed at his press conference. You know. Give credit to the Bulls. Of course, give credit to the Bulls, but I mean, just how good are the Bulls and how bad are the Stormers? You know, it seems chaotic there. You've got a team that should be playing in that stadium over there, down there. I mean the nice stadium, instead of playing at Newlands. Not that Newlands isn't nice, but it's had its day, and it's much more of an outing for a family to go to that stadium. So again, we'll see a Bulls versus Stormers. I've never seen a 40-3 match involving the Bulls and Stormers in something to be so hyped and with so much talent in a side.
Yeah, so
I mean, how many Springboks played in was it 14 or?
Yeah, and so little to choose between the two sides on paper, and then the kind of prep that they both had.
Fair play to Speckman. He was spectacular.
He was, but if you also look at and you take now again, Rusty's been doing a lot of work off season with the Bulls. Yeah. There was talk that he was initially going to take over the Bulls, but he had a say in the appointment of the Bulls. Alan Zondag has come in there, has worked hard on their structures. They've done a lot of work behind the scenes, and if you look at the side that they picked, so 2 in Skalk Brits, 5 in Loet Miller.
Well, Mitchell will tell you that it was down to him.
18 Dwayne Vermeulen, 9 in Papier, 10 in Pollard, 13 in Creel, and 15 in Kaland. That is the spine of any team, and they've got a very settled spine. You look at the Stormers, they're unstructured. They don't know if they want to play Willemse at 10, if they want to play Jean-Luc Duplessis at 10, or Willemse should play 15. They've got SP Marais on the wing where he should be playing 15. So all of a sudden there's a lot of confusion as to what that spine is. And it was something that I also underestimated going into the game. I actually didn't realize just how strong that spine of the Bulls was compared to last year. And all those players are going to feature in the Springbok World Cup squad selection as well. Yeah. Coincidence or not?
I don't believe in coincidences. The Bulls are going to Argentina. Who's winning that game?
God, those guys, I tell you, when I just write off the Jaguares, they come out and they produce something spectacular. Yeah. The minute you invest a little bit of faith in them, they're an absolute disaster. So I was very surprised at how poor they were against the Lions. Yeah. They should still have won that game near the end. They gave that Bulls side 50 last year in Buenos Aires. The Bulls are on a bit of a high. Again, I just don't know, will they turn to putty when they go there? It's one of, I would say to someone, just stay away from that game in terms of betting at this stage of the season. But I would still fancy the Jaguares to actually win that one, because if they don't, and they've dropped 2 at home, their season's also gone, because they're not going to win too many on the road.
No, correct. That's it. I mean, it's a must. If there's such a thing as a must-win game, it's for the Jags this Saturday, and I'm going to stay away from that one as well. Stormers, you can get 6.5 points handicap on the Stormers, meaning you get plus 6.5 against the Lions. I'm staying away from that one. I wouldn't touch the Stormers with a 10-foot pole right now. The game that interests me, Mark, is the Sharks and the Blues. Blues favourite against the Sharks in Durban.
God, I don't know how again. You know, you've got the Blues lost at home to the Crusaders. Yes, they were competitive. They had 2 opportunities to draw the game. Harry Plummer missed the conversion and then he missed the penalty. But they lost at home with all the hype around them. The Sharks went and hammered the Samoas. A very good result, 45-10. Yeah. They are at home in that humidity. Teams struggle. Very, very good teams have come to Durban and lost early season because of the humidity and the playing conditions. I think the Blues have got one of the best back divisions in Super Rugby, one of the poorest packs. And they remind me very much of those of the Lamu, Christian Cullen, Umaga, Hurricane teams of yesteryear. Would come and play some spectacular footy, but they would never win anything. And I think the Sharks pack will be too strong for the Blues pack. And you know, people will go there to see Sonny Bill Williams, Ma Nonu, Rick Keohane, maybe do something. But collectively, I don't know how the Blues can be the favourites to win in Durban when they took 60 points at home against the Sharks last year. So yeah, I would be going for an outright Sharks win there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm taking the 12-10 on offer for a Sharks victory. Going to bet 1,000 Rand on that, 2,200 back. Brumbies Chiefs, 7.5 spread.
Yes, again, I stay away from those games at the Bruce Stadium. You never know what conjures up. And again, when those New Zealand sides go over the ditch, it can be hit and miss. Depends on what a good time they have. Canberra's, there's a lot of casinos, the odd brothel. You never know if they're getting on Wednesday by Friday. That could influence the result.
Yeah, the Kiwi teams do love to have a good time when they tour.
They do indeed.
Yeah. Crusaders Hurricanes. Crusaders favored by 7.5 at home against the Hurricanes.
I like that. I like that as well. I think both have put out very good sides. Crusaders near to full strength with the exception of Kieran Reid and Sam Whitelock. And again, I looked at the two sides, very even when it comes to back divisions, but the Crusaders pack I think will be too strong for the Hurricanes pack and too well drilled. I think they'll win that one by 2 scores. I'm
staying away. I was impressed with the Sharks last week. The way that, I mean, it's a tidy win, 45-10.
Yeah, I think what you want from a team that's going to be one of the playoff contenders is to go do those matches like that. To go in there and clinically dismantle them, get your 40 points, concede only 1 try and get out of there. It wasn't a 65-45 kind of result when you start saying what happened to their defense and that. It's the first time I've seen a Sharks team in a while actually go away and hammer a team they should be hammering. Yeah. You know, we've seen them go to New Zealand where they've been under pressure and they score an amazing victory or come close to knocking over the Hurricanes as they did last year, and it's a bit unexpected, and then they come home and they get knocked over by you know, a poorer team. I just felt they were probably, from the South African context, I thought that they were the team who gave the performance of the weekend even better than the Bulls against the Stormers.
Yeah, look, to me, I agree with you in terms of I was very impressed with the Sharks last week. I think that's had a bit of a knee-jerk reaction with the bookies, and 19.5. Warthogs probably rest some of their key players. I like the Sunwolves to not lose by that many points, and a bit closer than 20 points. So I'm going to bet 1,000 to win back 1,900 that the Sunwolves don't lose by 20 or more points.
Ooh, it's a big risk, eh?
Well, it's 1,000 rand. When that becomes a big risk in my life, then I'm in trouble. The Highlanders Reds, 20.5 points. Haven't seen the Reds play this year. They were off last week. Highlanders, I tipped them to finish top of the log at 9-1 on course. They upset the Chiefs last week. Yeah, we went 0 for 2 last week. I don't worry about those things. 2 bets. We make it up during the year, and it's why I tread very lightly in the first few weeks of betting, because no one has a clue, and you just want things to settle down, see a bit of patterns, a bit of form.
So, but also 0 from 2 in context. Both matches decided in the last minute, and we spoke about that. The fine margins. You know, the tackle doesn't get made, the kick doesn't get made, and you know, your bet is one of those.
Well, I never hear about the bets that I tip to win. So I only hear about the ones I lose. So
I just think I don't rate the Reds at all. And Brad Thorne's come with a lot of bluster and thunder. They haven't played yet. I think the Highlanders will win, but I don't think they'll win by 20 plus. You know, I think the Reds, if ever they're going to come out there with some mongrel and with some hype, it's the first match of the season where they haven't lost yet. So I think they'll be competitive. I think more 10 plus than 20 plus for the Highlanders.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away from that because again, we're invested for the Highlanders for the year. So I expect the Highlanders to get a bonus point victory there and lead the log after week 2.
And your 9-1 money is looking very good 2 rounds into Super Rugby for the overall champions in terms of the league stages.
I'll tell you what's looking even better is my England bet on those 3 bets that I tipped. But none of you millennials will be on any of those because they don't have the tenacity to watch a 20-minute video. Those tips came. So for all those old toppies out there that watched the video and took that bet, well done. You know, but should be another interesting week of rugby. Let's hope that the Stormers don't embarrass themselves like they did last week.
Your call there? Who's going to win it? Stormers? I know you're staying away from a betting perspective.
On Super Brew, I'd probably go with the Lions 10 points, based on purely what I've seen. But then, you know, the Stormers are a different team at home. They won they were woeful on the road last year and strong at home. So I have no idea. I have no idea which team will show up. One interesting thing is I got a lot of mail asking why the Stormers didn't play in their superhero jerseys. And you know what I've heard the reason is BLK, their sponsor, couldn't provide them with more than 23 jerseys. Can you imagine being the official sponsor and that marketing opportunity? And they couldn't supply them with any change. So if any of them ripped, none of the players had to change the jerseys. Had to play in that's why they played in the non-superhero jerseys.
Alternatively, the other thing could be that the guys at BLK knew what kind of performance it was going to be, and it wasn't going to be a superhero performance. So they gave them the blandest jersey, knowing what kind of result they were going to get. But that is shocking. I mean, it's just symptomatic of what's going on at the moment. It's a shambles at the Stormers, and it's a season that's going to be painfully long.
It is. How many wins are the Stormers going to get this year?
Well, if they get more than 6, they've improved in last season. I can't see them getting more than 6.
There's no way they're getting 6.
They don't get to play the Sunwolves every week, and they've even struggled against them in the past.
Anyway, should be a good weekend in rugby, and we'll be back next week to talk about it.
With more than 0 from 2.
Thanks, Mark.